Hey guys, what's up? So this past weekend was the end of the year UFC 219 card, and it was a pretty good card. It had some good fights on it. Not quite as exciting as the last two cards that we've seen. Like pay-per-view events is what I'm talking about. 218 and 217. Those were spectacular. And it's not really a shame. It was still a good card, but end of the year wasn't quite as exciting as the last two fights that we've had. But anyway, I'm going to wait a little bit to jump into that because first I want to talk about the UFC just signed two new fighters, and they come from different backgrounds. One's more of a Thai boxer, and the other's a Jiu-Jitsu player. IBJJF champ, I think. I'm going to have to look it up to make sure of that. Don't quote me on that yet. But anyway, the other guy is, the first guy, rather, from the Thai background is Israel Idensaya. I don't know how to pronounce it. I just heard of this guy like a week ago, and I was looking up highlights of him, and he is fucking incredible. I mean, he's got some weaknesses that I saw. Like, he kind of had trouble defending the takedown a little bit, but he's got, like, good jiu-jitsu. It looks like he has pretty good judo. Like, I think he's going to be okay if he keeps refining those things. But anyway, this kid is 11-0 in the UFC right now, and every single fight has ended in a knockout so far, and it hasn't gone past the second round. I mean, you can look this guy up, and go through his record. I mean, you might not recognize a lot of names because he was fighting in other organizations, obviously. He just got out of Hex Fighting Series, according to Wikipedia, I guess. But, he's got a big name on here that you guys would know, maybe. Melvin Gillard, who looked kind of lackluster in that fight. Like, he wasn't doing a whole lot, but it was because he was clearly outclassed on the feet. This kid, I'm trying to find what his kickboxing record is. 65 wins, 24 knockouts, 5 losses, 2 draws. So he's got a hell of a background in kickboxing. He is someone to watch out for. What's he going to fight at? Like I said, I just heard about this kid, and I was looking up some of his fights over the last couple of days, and he's exciting. If you guys get a chance to just go on YouTube and Google his name, you'll probably be able to find all of his fights for free. But I'm trying to see the weight class that he fights at. And I can't find it because I can't say retarded. I'll probably get a bunch of shit for using that word, but I felt like a fucking retard right there. Anyway, if you guys get a chance, go watch some of this kid's highlights even. You know what I mean? You don't have to get through all the fun. Like, you'll get a pretty clear idea of what his specialty is as soon as you click the video. I mean, like I said, there's some things that you'll be like, oh, okay, he needs some work there, but I'm sure he has been if the UFC signed him. The other person is Mackenzie Dern, who is I believe, is IBJJF world champion? Anyway, this girl is a phenomenal jiu-jitsu player, like world championships, and she is 5-0 right now. And 3 of those 5 wins have come from submissions of some sort, and the other 2 were unanimous. So she walked away with pretty clear victories. I've only watched like 2 of her fights, and she looks good. I mean, she's one of those girls that when she gets you on the ground, you kind of know you're fucked. Like, what are you really going to do? Because when you're dealing with jiu-jitsu at that high of a level, this is one of those girls who's coming in too, who is going to be like, now I guess Ronda Rousey was judo and you got Holly with boxing, but she's coming in from the jiu-jitsu world, and she might be the first, like, I can't say first, maybe in grappling, I could say, excluding judo. But anyway, she's accomplished is my point. But it's good when people like these specialists come in, because usually when you have to find a way to deal with that problem, and they're so much better at you. They're so much better than you at that problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, so if you're fighting a girl like this, like, you know, if you go to the ground that you're not going to be able to overcome how good she is at jiu-jitsu. So you have to find other ways to beat her. And when that happens, you see people around the entire division, and sometimes across like the sport. Mainly within the divisions, I would say you see it more, but people start to rise up to that. So all of a sudden, like, you have to find a way to deal with this problem, like this new problem, this jiu-jitsu problem that you've probably never seen in the UFC yet. And once people start to solve that, then it creates better competition for the divisions. I don't know if that makes sense, if I'm wording that right, but girls like her are perfect because they elevate the whole sport. Like, you're going to see her come in. I expect her to do pretty well. I mean, granted, she's never fought at the UFC level, but she's one of those girls who's going to be really hyped. And like I said, she's got that specialty. And it's so good that if she can get you to where she can incorporate her game plan, she's going to win. And she's only 24 years old. Yeah, so those are two prospects that I'm definitely looking forward to watching fight. And I think Israel is fighting at 221, and Dern is fighting at 222. I might have those mixed up. I'm sorry if I do. But I think that's right. If not, you can just fucking Google it. You know what I mean? Anyway, there's... I guess also... I talked about this in like the first one of these that I did, but Demetrius Johnson and TJ Dillashaw are supposed to be in talks about fighting. I know TJ just had a kid, so I don't know how soon he's trying to get back to the octagon. But if you can get Conor back and get him fighting in March against someone like Khabib or Tony, probably Tony. I really want to see the Khabib Conor fight. I want to see Conor and Tony too, but I really want to see Conor and Khabib, so I just jumped to that. But if you could get Conor to fight in March and have Demetrius and TJ Dillashaw, because those two aren't enough to... I don't even know if... They could probably headline a card, like a pay-per-view event, and it would get some buys, but it's not going to do that well. But if you throw them on there with Conor, you get exposure to both these guys. And maybe a bunch of people buy that have never seen Demetrius Johnson fight because they're buying it to see Conor, you know? And maybe that'll create like a new wave of respect for Johnson. So that's a fight that I heard they're talking about making. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but I would love to see that fight. And like I said, I think it's good exposure for both guys, especially Johnson, who doesn't seem to like get the respect he deserves. And as far as popularity goes, like, I feel like no one really likes him or cares. Like, maybe getting on a card that big would really... And against a guy like TJ Dillashaw, you know what I mean? Because you could hype that up. Like, if the UFC does its job, if that gets made, that's a huge fight. Like, one of the most interesting matchups in UFC history. I know that gets tossed around a lot, but really it is. And I don't know. Fuck it, we got to move on. All right, so this past weekend, Cyborg defended the title against Holly. Khabib put on a dominant performance against Barboza. Hooker beat Jakashi. Esparza beat Calvillo. And Condit beat Magny. So I'm just going to start up at the top of the card first this time. I guess it doesn't matter where I go in, but I'm starting with Holman Cyborg, and then we'll work our way down. So Cyborg looked absolutely phenomenal, and I was kind of, coming into this fight, I was kind of doubting how good she was going to be on her feet. Against, like, obviously she's a killer, and she looks, I just wanted to see it against a girl as high level as Holly at striking. Because Holly can present you with so many different problems, and in this fight, she kind of did the opposite. Like, I thought Holly looked really competitive, and then she did a good job of, like, getting to the clinch, but then she just never did anything with it. I was like, come on, you got to work. Like, you know what I mean? She just kind of sat there and tried to get her underhooks and flatten her up against the cage and not really work. So I thought that Holly always looks to me like she just can't pull the trigger for whatever reason. Like, she has a hard time doing it. And you can, like, you can see, like, she's kind of not stiff, but, like, hesitant, I guess is the best word. Like, she's, like, seeing things and then getting afraid to throw things because she's afraid that she might get hit. Like, I think that she thinks a lot during her fights. And I think she's been guilty of that in almost every fight except the one that she fought against Ronda. And I thought that might help her out in an underdog situation like this, like playing that role again. Like, maybe all that pressure creates diamonds, right? And I thought that that might elevate her game and you might get to see her really open up on a girl when all this pressure's on her and she's really nervous. And when you got a girl like Cyborg just in front of your face, and you start countering and landings and combos, and you know what I mean, looking really good, and that just didn't happen. But that's, I'm saying this, but I'm not taking away from how good Cyborg is, because Cyborg had a perfect game plan, and she outclassed Holly on the feet, plain and simple. I mean, like, don't get me wrong, Holly was, like, throwing some really repetitive stuff and not mixing her kicks in as well, And I don't know, just looked a little bit, I don't want to say lackluster, like she was working, but it was like underwhelming. And Cyborg, like, it was obvious when Cyborg was landing the punches, she was just so much more powerful. Like, not even close. They're not even on the same fucking Richter scale. And you saw Holly's, like, side of her face swell up, and you can see her kind of getting discouraged in her face a little bit throughout the fight. And it would be, because Cyborg puts so much pressure on you that if you don't make her pay for it, she's going to keep hunting you down and throwing. And it's going to be hell for you if you can't find a way to, like, hit her with something that makes her think twice about coming at you that fast. You have to be able to fight going backwards, and you have to be able to, and that's why I thought Holly would do really well. Like, she'd get her counters going, and for whatever reason, she just either didn't let it loose or couldn't get it loose. Like, maybe Cyborg was so good that nothing was there, and she just felt like anything she threw would be dangerous. But she was getting dotted up in the exchanges that she was throwing, so it's like, mix up your game plan a little bit, you know? Start throwing some kicks in there, mixing things up. I mean, I don't know. That's, if I was cornering her, I would have emphasized on that and really told her, but I didn't listen to much of the cornering. But I would have been in her ear chirping about that. Like, hey, you got to mix it up. You can't be throwing these, like, she was step, also, I said in the last one, if you want to play the patience game with Holly, you're going to lose. I was dead wrong, because you could see Holly attacking Cyborg, and Cyborg was the one doing a lot of the countering and landing the big shots. Like, Holly was, like, sitting there, and she was like, oh, fuck, like, she's outweighting me, and then would attack when she thought something was there, and then she'd just get hit with, like, a hook. And Cyborg was just throwing that hook right over the shoulder every single time. Like, Holly would kind of charge in, and every time she threw that straight, Cyborg just brought it over the top and was clocking her with it. But Holly's tough as nails. Like, when you're getting beat up like that, to be able to survive 5 rounds. And Cyborg's cardio looked really good, too, which is something that I wanted to see. And I think now this has to cement Cyborg as the best female fighter of all time, as of now. I mean, I know Joanna had an excellent title run, like, dominating everyone, but no one's done what Cyborg has done, in or out of the UFC. Because she was fighting the only talent at 145, really, in Invicta. UFC just created the 145-pound division pretty much for Cyborg. So, I mean, I don't know how you don't consider her the greatest. And you might even have to throw her, maybe not yet, like, give her a couple more title defenses, but then you have to start talking about, like, how do you start categorizing her as the greatest, like, one of the greatest of all time? Like, I'm talking with, like, Anderson Silva and John Jones. Like, just because she's a female doesn't mean that needs to be taken away from her. Especially now that she's beat Holly, who has beat some, I mean, she beat Ronda, and she beat up on Mish Tate, too, until she slipped up in the last round and got submitted. And those are 2 huge names in the sport that she's performed really well against, and Cyborg just mopped the floor with her. Anyway, move on. Well, let's talk about who they should probably fight next. I would like to see Cyborg fight Amanda Nunes, but I think the most likely opponent for Cyborg is probably going to be Megan Anderson, who is the Invicta champ right now, maybe. I'm really bad at keeping up with most of the organizations outside of the UFC. I'm decent with Bellator, and I know a couple names from Invicta, but I couldn't tell you, like, who's the champ over there or anything. Anyway, Megan Anderson is really good, and I think she's on a tear right now, where she's knocked out like 4 or 5 people or something like that. I could be wrong, but I know she's on a tear right now. I don't know how many knockouts are in there. I think quite a few, though. And that's a really interesting fight if they can make that happen. Either one of those 2 I'd be happy with. I'd really like to see Amanda step up, because Amanda's got some serious power when she lands. And can she implement, like, that striking against someone like Cyborg? Probably not, to be honest. I don't know if anyone can. Right? Cyborg's probably going to go undefeated and be... how are you going to beat her? She is so fucking good, and she's so powerful, and she's aggressive. And like I said, if you don't make her pay, she just imposes her will on you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Anyway, next, Khabib and Edson Barboza fought, and I'm going to stop giving out betting advice. That might be a dumb idea, because I thought both of these fights were going to be really close, and both of them really weren't. Like, I really thought that Barboza had a chance to win, and he didn't. And remember in the last one how I said, like, Khabib would take you down in the first round, and then you can just see that like spirit drain out of the person. You can see it in their face. That's exactly what happened to Barboza. He couldn't stop the takedown, and he was just like getting dominated. And he was like throwing some spin. I mean, he has a ton of heart. He fought the whole way through that fucking fight, and especially in the third round after being that exhausted, I thought he put up like a really valiant effort against a guy who is probably the best grappler in MMA history. I mean, he's got to be up there. But Barboza looked really good. Like, didn't look really good. Khabib looked really good. Barboza, like I said, had a lot of heart, stuck around, but it was just so overwhelming. And when he gets a hold of you, you like, it's eventual, you know what I mean? I think Barboza might have spun out of one of Khabib's takedowns against the fence, like one time. And I was like, oh, fuck, that's a big deal. But didn't end up mattering in the long run. I mean, Khabib is just so good. And when he does get you, it's like he understands the game down there so much better than you, and he's heavy on you, and he's making you work constantly. And even the timing of his punches when he's on the ground is like everything's perfectly timed. They're just coming. Like every time you move and you're like about to advance position, you're getting caught with a punch in the face. And then when you recoil to defend, he's advancing. Like his groundwork is so technical. It's maybe the best. I think probably the best I've ever seen. Like someone who's that good on the ground, and like when you know he gets you, it's over. Like, there's not going to be a whole lot you can do. It's almost like Damian Maia, but Nurmagomedov is, I think, even better at it because he's beating the fuck out of you. It sucks for Barboza because, you know, that was a really hype fight, and that's going to push him out of contending for the title anytime soon, because now you're going to have, we'll just move on to Khabib should fight, Tony or Conor. This is why I hate the idea of the interim fucking belt, because now that Tony holds that belt, he automatically is gifted a fight with Conor. And not that he hasn't earned it. I'm not saying that at all. He's one of the best in the division. But what I'm saying is now there is no dispute that Tony's going to get it. And how do you say that Tony is more deserving of the title shot than Khabib now? You know what I mean? Like, he just knocked off the best striker in a more dominant fashion than Tony did when he fought him. And also, Khabib has a win. This is a long time ago, so you can kind of like discredit it if you whatever. But Khabib has a dominant win over Michael Johnson, and Michael Johnson beat Tony Ferguson earlier in his career. So there has to be at least a discussion there, and now there's not. And now you've got Conor holding up everything. Like, all the pieces are in like the wrong place for this, I feel like. But what needs to happen is Khabib needs to sit out, and he needs to put pressure on the UFC to either strip Conor of the title or make Conor defend it against Tony, and then Khabib gets the winner of Conor and Tony. You have to do one of those two things. Because if you are just letting Conor control the situation, like, he's never going to fight, and he's going to string things out, and like, man, look how like sporadic he is. Like, he just went off and boxed. Like, and you don't even know if he's going to fight again. So he just has this division on hold. Khabib needs to sit out, not accept the fight. I would love to see him fight Eddie Alvarez, but don't take any of that, and just wait for this to sort itself out. Because like I said, if he sits out, Dana White's going to be like, Conor got to fight Tony. Conor got to fight Tony. Conor got to fight Tony. And if he doesn't do it, then Khabib fights for the title because you'll strip Conor of the title. And you have Khabib and Tony fighting, which should have happened a while ago, and that's a great fight. But yeah, if I'm Khabib, I'm sitting out and I'm either fighting Tony Ferguson for the real title when they strip Conor, or I'm fighting the winner of Conor and Tony. And for Barboza, I say this all the time, just throw out a guy in the 155-pound division, and it'll be a good fight. Like, you could mix and match any of them. Give him anyone, like, you know, in the top, maybe a top 5 fight, and if not, in between 1 and 10. You know what I mean? It's still going to be a good fight. Maybe a little bit risky for Barboza after that loss. Like, you probably don't want to lose another one in a division that's, I mean, it's a fucking tight race, right? And there's not a lot of place. Like, there's not a lot of room for error. So just throw him someone, you know, I don't know who's ranked. I can't list the rankings off the top of my head. But guys like Justin Gaethje would be a good fight with him. Two guys who you know are probably going to stand up and throw at each other. And then the next fight on the card was Gaethje versus Hooker. And Hooker pulled off, did he win in the third round? I think he won in the third round. But he won by a guillotine, which he like locked it up. And this is funny that you remember that Israel guy? He called the exact way that he would lock up the guillotine in like a video, like right before the fight. He's teammates with Hooker. And if I would have known that, I would have given Hooker a lot more credit in this fight, because Jikashi's kind of wild, and he's got like this really like explosive striking style. If I knew he was training with this fucking Israel guy, I'm telling you, look him up. You'll know what I mean. I would have given him a lot more credit against a guy like Jikashi. Like, I didn't realize how prepared Hooker was for like this, especially the style. You know what I mean? But he pulled off a nice win, and for him, I mean, again, I don't know. Just Felder would be a good fight, but I don't think you can make him fight Felder. Felder's on a tear right now, and I don't think he's going to jump down to fight him. Oliveira, I don't know. I don't really know. These guys, 155 is so deep, and when you start getting down that low, these guys are two guys who could be ranked a little bit higher in other divisions, but in this, I mean, the talent is so stacked that you get thrown into like probably like, you know what I mean, the 15 to 20, 25 range. So I don't know, just maybe give him someone in the top 15, let him see if he can crack that, and unless that bumped him into it, I don't know. Anyway, give him someone in the top 15, see if he can get a good win out, and then you start moving him up, being like, okay, this kid might be the real deal. And for Jikashi, same thing. I mean, he's only lost 2 fights. Just give him someone a little bit right around his ranking. I don't know what he's ranked. There's too many, like I said, there's too many people to keep track of in that division. But give him someone that you think will be an interesting matchup for him stylistically, and let that 155 division just keep working itself out. This next fight, I can't say it was robbery. Like, I don't think that's fair to say, because when I look back on it, there are things that you could have given Carla, who won by unanimous decision. I think it was. I think all 3 judges gave it to her. And when they said that initially, I don't know if you guys saw the fight, but I was like, oh, unanimous decision. This is obviously going to Calvillo, and it didn't. And I was like, oh, fuck, that kind of sucks, because that's the first loss of Calvillo's career. And again, they always say, don't leave it in the hands of the judges. Well, what are you supposed to do? You're fighting at this high of a level, and you're fighting, like, Esparza's pretty goddamn good on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to get a finish against someone who's working hard and, like, has a ton of talent on top of that. But like I said, I've seen worse, so I can't bitch about it too much. Like, I could see why the judges were like, oh, Esparza scoring there, and like, she looked good on her feet. Esparza looked really good on her feet, which I didn't expect. That did surprise me. Like, I thought that aspect of her game improved a lot. I personally thought Calvillo won the fight, but what I think does not fucking matter. So Esparza is gonna have to fight someone. Like, who do you make her fight next? Maybe like Teisha Torres would be a really good fight, who just came off a win over Watterson. Yeah, I like that fight a lot. I think you do Carla and Teisha Torres if she's not tied up already. And if she is, fuck it. I still think it's a good matchup. They can fight someone else. I don't know. And if I'm Calvillo, I'm not stressed out. Like, that's your first loss, and in your head, you know, you kind of, like, you're probably thinking that you did really well. Probably, sometimes losses are good too. Like, that might light a fire under ass. I'm not saying one already isn't, but maybe it'll turn the heat up a little bit. Because, like, it pushes you to get better and realize that you aren't invincible and that you do have flaws and they need to be addressed. And Cynthia, I think, is the kind of girl who's going to come back, like, better than she was. So I'm not worried too much about that. Like, I wouldn't let this stress me out, because you're still probably going to get a pretty good fight next. Maybe someone like, I don't know, like Felice. I would say Felice Herrig, but also I'm getting confused with who's going to move up to the next weight class. I haven't kept up with that at all. Like, I know Paige Van Zandt is and stuff. Let me look up the straw weight rankings, because I want to see who Cynthia should fight next. And I can't think of anyone off the top of my head. Yeah, see, like maybe Herrig would be a good fight. But because Herrig, I think, is coming off a win, so that's not bad. Maybe like Carolina, I don't know. And like if I'm the UFC, I'm not afraid to match her up with people like that. But the problem is she's ranked. She's coming off a loss, but she's ranked. She's gonna fight a girl possibly ranked higher than Carla. Like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You know what I mean? But if I'm the UFC, I'm watching her and I'm like, okay, she just like put on a pretty good performance against Carla. She's still capable of competing in this top range. Like she's not gonna get punished too much for taking that loss because a lot of people are gonna be like, especially like the UFC brass, are gonna be like, okay, we know she can compete up there, so we can still make these bigger fights for her and see what she's really made of. Like really test her mettle in another one. And the last fight on the card was Condit and Magny. And Magny just looked really good. I mean, he just outclassed him, like the whole fight, really. You know what I mean? And this is a fight, like I said, I was worried about Condit taking that much time off and coming back and considering retirement. I feel like when you start thinking about retirement, your mind is already going somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like you already have these other thoughts other than fighting, and you're fighting people who are only thinking about fighting. That's all they think about 24/7. Like, they have so much fucking drive and passion that they haven't even thought about retiring. And Neil Magny's that kind of guy. And Condit has, like, dabbled with it. Like, yeah, I'm going to go live in my fucking cabin. Do nothing. You know what I mean? Like, that lifestyle is appealing to him. So then he's got to not only make that transition to come back and, like, shake off the ring rust, which is real, I think, by the way. Like, there are anomalies, like Dominic Cruz. And it's funny because you can listen to Dominic Cruz and Joe Rogan, like, argue about it subtly while they're announcing. I think it's funny because I don't think that they have that good of a chemistry. Like, they're constantly, like, bickering at each other. Like, real subtly. See if you guys can catch it or if you have caught it. I don't think they commentate well together. Like, they do. They're really good technically. Like, they're good at breaking things down. But there's, like, they don't flow. Like, I think DC and Joe flow. And if you listen to, like, Joe's podcast, he doesn't really talk about announcing with Dominic. But he fucking loves DC. But anyway, I got way off track. Yeah, ring rust is definitely a problem. I mean, it's an issue. And for Magny, this was a big win because Condit's a name. He's a fan favorite. And he's fought for the title before. So this is a big win for you. This really propels you. Especially, this is a big win for your confidence after you're coming off of a fight against RDA, which you got just absolutely mauled in. It's got to feel good to come back and get a win like this. And I should have already had these pulled up, but let's look at like the UFC welterweight rankings. Yeah, Magny. I don't think Magny and Robbie Lawler have ever fought. So maybe like a fight against him would be a good one because Robbie's coming off a loss, but he's still a high-ranked fighter. And a win over him would look really good on Magny's resume. And then maybe propel him to another, like then you can start talking about, like, Wonder Boy and stuff like that. Like I said, he already fought Desanios. He's already, like, skyrocketed up the rankings because he has looked fucking phenomenal at 170. So, yeah, I'd say give Magny someone like that, you know what I mean? Like, give him a bump up in competition. Like, not quite like a Wonder Boy yet, but give him someone who's going to give him some trouble, you know what I mean? See if he can overcome that adversity and then start talking about bumping him up into those top fives. And Magny might be 2 or 3 wins away from a title shot if that's the case. Like, I don't think that's unrealistic. Especially with how good he looked in this performance. Like I said, granted, like, Condit was coming off a layoff and stuff, but still, Condit still knows how to fight, and that's a big win. It's an important win. Like I said, for your confidence and for your spot like where you place in contention for the title. Maybe we could fight Colby Covington or something like that too. But Covington's just been he's just been bickering constantly for a title shot. And he's doing something that's actually kind of smart. Like, even if people don't like him, people know him, and that's more important. Sometimes, like, if you're okay with playing the role of the bad guy, fuck it, play it. Just get on TV, start talking shit about some other country, get a whole country fired up at you, and then they all buy the pay-per-view because they want to see you get your fucking ass kicked. Like, it's kind of smart, you know? can't knock him for it, I guess. I mean, he sounds like an asshole sometimes, and I think he knows it. Like, and I don't know if it's an act or a ploy or what, or if it's really authentic. Like, if Colby Covington is just really willing to talk into countries and start talking shit and throwing and like talking shit to the heavyweight champion of the world in Verdum while he's throwing a boomerang at you. Like, I don't know if that's really him or if he's just like knows it's going to get out there into the media. And if you can't do it, like, it's hard to be the nice guy and get super famous unless you get a push like Sage Northcutt did. Randy Couture, I get, but he was so, you know what I mean? He was so dominant in his time and just so like well liked because that was when the sport was like first kicking off, and like there weren't as many champions to pay attention to his stuff. Like now you've got like guys like Conor who love attention and they constantly want to draw it to themselves, and people tend to pay attention to that more than they're going to pay attention to someone who's just like sitting back, nodding their head to like everything, you know what I mean, being real polite in the interviews. Like that's just not going to get it done for you. So Covington's like, fuck it, I'm not a nice guy, I'm going to be a dick. And I mean, I guess it's paying off. You know his name. Anyway, that wraps this one up. I think I can't remember when the next UFC fight is. I think it's a free card, and then obviously 220 is going to have Ngannou versus Stipe, and DC and Ozdemir. So that's something to look forward to for sure. And I think there's either one or two like mixed in between there, so don't have to go too long without watching one before we get to this. But I'll roll one out when that fight night comes up in a couple weeks. I'll have to look up the date, but there'll be one coming out then. And until then, guys, talk to you later. Bye.